YouTubers, Brian Proctor back again with another video. And in this video, we're going to talk about doing your comic book cover. Now, I've been running into a lot of people that are doing comics, which is a great thing. And people tend to put all their energy into the story, into their characters, and getting that story and that art out. But when it comes to the cover, people really don't think about that until the very last second. And the cover is the very most important thing about your book, even more so than the art inside, because the cover sells your book. When people look at it, they have to like it enough or like that art enough to pick your book up, to open it up, to see your art. So your cover is your most important thing. So that's something that you're going to have to put your heart and soul in. So let me show you this so you won't be staring at a blank paper. And this was a drawing I did for my cover for my sketchbook that I did a while back. So number one, you're going to want to do your characters. And then when you show your characters, it's best to try to show your characters in a type of predicament that will draw you in. A lot of people will draw their characters just standing in a nice pose, and that's fine, but you want to really give it something, as I say, to grab somebody's attention. You know, I don't know your character, you know your character, but I'm most likely I'm not going to pick up the book because your character is just standing there in a cool position, unless you have some killer color, or your inks, your shadows, your inks are just so great that, you know, I can't refuse but pick it up. I can't help but pick it up. So that's something you're going to have to do when you put your characters in a book or do it for the cover. You want to put them in the best possible pose that you can. And this is the actual cover that I did for this. Now, I didn't do this all in color because I really didn't know what color I wanted to do it. So I just did just a little bit of color, and you can get away without doing color in your cover. But to exchange for the color that you won't get, you have to give them some great detail so they won't even think about the color that's missing. So the less you do, the more you have to give, shall we say. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but you know, if your character is just going to stand there, just stand there straight, you got to give them some great color to make it look good. Okay, and if they're going to do, like, if he's fighting or in a battle or sitting and dying and bleeding, then my eye's not going to focus on the lack of color. My eye's going to focus on that character having trouble with whatever, and then I may pick your book up and then open it up. But you have to have a great cover before somebody will even pick it up and open it up, provided they are able to do that. Now, if your book is online, that makes it even harder for you to, well, it's impossible for you to actually open it up unless you give them some free pages that they're going to look at. So your cover is most important. Now let's take a look at some of the professional stuff, and then we'll come back down to earth and look at the non-professional stuff, shall we say. Now this was Battle Chasers. Let me zoom in on that real quick. So the thing about this is Battle Chasers was an established book already. This was back, I don't know if it's still out now, but this was back in the 90s, I believe it was, 2000s. And this guy, you know, this is a cover by Campbell. Campbell didn't create that, but J. Scott Campbell, but he did the cover for this guy. And number one, J. Scott Campbell has a big name. Okay, so number one. Number two, when you see his art, you're going to naturally pick it up. And two, Battle Chasers was a really great book. So that also is a selling point. So he's got his characters in, and the one thing about this is the way he positioned his characters. When you first look at it, you're going to see this guy, and he's got the sword, and of course the red is going to draw your eye to the girl, and always sex sells. That's just how it is. And then you probably go to the girl with the big glove, the big Thanos glove, and then you probably go up to this guy who you didn't see was a wizard, and he's got his little staff, and then it'll draw you back up, and you're like, oh, there's a robot up there too. And then, so this is a way to do a cover to actually, when you pick it up, you won't say, oh, one person, and then throw it to the side. You'll say, oh, look at this, oh, look at that, oh, look at that. So that's got your attention. So of course, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to open it up and then see, you know, what the art looks like, which is, you know, this guy was phenomenal art. I didn't even want to try to say the guy's name, Mediera or whatever, but I'm sorry for messing up the guy's name. But I love this guy's style. So number 2, let's check out this one. I mean, enough said. What does that say? Enough said. So any X-Men cover is going to sell, but you've got your characters, which one, like I said, they're already known. So who doesn't know, Wolverine and Angel? But what they're doing there, they are attacking this guy here, and this guy is some little short guy. Obviously, he's a wizard type of guy, and he's got the wind going around. So that pulls you in. You're like, what's going to happen here? But Wolverine, I think he's got the bone claws here. So something else to attract you to pick up the book. Another one is Justice League. Now these guys are standing still. This is what I'm saying about your cover. If you have your characters and just standing there. Now the way you've got Batman in the foreground, he's taking up most of the cover, and you've got what is this, Mr. Terrific, I believe, and this is probably Karate Kid, if I'm not mistaken. But with the blacks and the color and very little to no background, this makes an exciting book. And of course, it's already known, Batman, Justice League. So of course you're going to pick it up. And then the artist again was that Turner. So another good artist I like. A couple more covers. Again, Batman. This is Jim Lee. So again, you got Robin in the foreground, which it pops out and makes it exciting, and the Batman in the black, kind of in the shadows. And then great detail, but that's a Jim Lee thing. It's always great detail, great color, and again, the characters are known, so that's a selling point. Whereas your characters are not known, you have to do everything in your power to get somebody to pick up your book and look at it, because that's the first step to selling. And it's the last of the professionals. This was a Space Ghost. I was a Space Ghost fan back in the day, and I was happy to see them come out with a comic book, because when that Space Ghost Coast to Coast came out, they just killed Space Ghost. And so again, a known character, but he's in trouble. He's in this little crisis. You've got what was that green? I don't know if the guy's name was Zark or whatever his name was. With his arms, he's about to attack Space Ghost. Space Ghost is covered with this guy's blood, so obviously he was fighting. He's hitting his button on his power band, so he's about to kick some butt. So of course, again, known character, you're drawn into it, what's happening. So you're going to pick up the book, you're going to look at it. You might not buy it, but it's enough to make you stop and say, wow, that's nice. What is he going to do? And then when you look at it, you're pretty much, I'm not gonna say 100% hooked, but that's the whole point of covers, to kind of hook you and then reel you in, and then you start looking at the art. All right, now let's come back down to earth with the non-professional art. Not that I'm not a professional, but I'm not up there on these guys' levels. I'm gonna say, what happened to my picture? Let me shrink it back down a little bit so that I can see what I'm doing. Now, when I did my first comic book, me and some friends, we got together and we did a group. I'm not gonna say a company, we did a group, and my flagship comic was Trials of the Samurai Clown. And this was the very first one I did, and this was the image that I had in my mind. It was a clown covered in blood, chained up, and a crowd behind him looking at him. So when you see this, you're like, okay, first of all, there's a clown. Second of all, he's got a samurai sword and he's covered in blood. What's going on? So that is enough to grab your attention. And as I said, this was my very first attempt at putting out comic books, or a continuous comic book. So I really didn't know about covers. Me and the other guys, we just put stuff out. And as we went along and showed our stuff to people that were more professionals, people that had companies, they pointed out a lot of stuff to us that we were doing wrong or we could do better. So this was my first attempt. And my friend that I talked about in a couple other videos, Jemaine Webb, this was his first cover for Twilight, The Battle of Spiritual Warfare. And this guy, I mentioned in some other videos, he did everything to his book. What is he on? He's like on either 40 some issues or 38 or 40 some, and he's done all these issues by himself. He did everything except for the speech bubbles inside. He did the writing, the drawing, the coloring, and to me that's a feat, and that's something that people can learn from. He is someone that people can learn from, because if you're trying to do a book by yourself and then you have a full-time job, which he did, and then he was going to school full-time and then dealing with life itself. But he managed to continue to kick these books out. So as I said, he's, I believe it's 40-some. He's actually finished with this series, and he's about to work on another series that he has been talking about. And as I said, he's done all of this stuff by himself. And if you guys have any questions about that, or how did he do it, or anything about his book, I will leave the information at the end of the video, or should I say in the description box below, so that you guys can contact him. I'll even leave information on how to get the book, and we'll talk about this book a little bit more, because I did a cover for him, and I'll show you that cover as well. Now, one of the things that I was told by this, and he was too, we were both told, that when you do a book, you want your title to be out there. You want your title to jump out so that people can say, oh, this is this particular book. So if you look at mine and you look at his, I mean, he's got a dark background and the title is there on the side, and it's not really that easy to see, and mine is like up there and it's crooked. You can see it, but it's small compared to everything else. And if you look at something like that, X-Men. And so that's one thing you want to think about when you do your book, is you're going to have to leave room for your title, and your title should be big and bold, so where people will know what the name of your book is. Okay, let's pull out some examples. I'll show you a couple more if I can find the picture. Bear with me. Okay, this was another book that I did in the series in my company. Let me shrink it down a little bit. Now, again, you don't know the character. I know the character. So I put him in a, I don't want to say precarious position, a position where you saw that he's in trouble. He's got the blood coming down his mouth, and then there's a shadow, and this was a Christian book. This was The Next Soldier. The name of the book is The Next Soldier. So I colored that one, and it looks like that. So as you see, you have like the demon shadow behind him. He's kind of beat up. He's against a wall. The demon threw him against the wall. So that's enough to where you would take a second look at it and say, that's pretty good. The art is pretty good. You know, it's got enough detail and enough color to attract you. It's bright enough to attract you. So you might stop for a second and think, hey, let me just open that book up. And then that's what the cover is about, to, you know, to hook you and to reel you in. Forgive me if I'm starting, because this is not scripted. This is just something that I thought about, and I said, let me talk about doing covers. So the next one is, and hopefully I'll get to one of my points that I'm trying to make. This was another Trial of the Samurai Clown. This was, what number book is that? Let me take that down. So going back to black and white covers, as I said, if you don't have the money or the know-how to do a color cover, put as much detail as you can into your black and white cover. So this was the cover, but I started coloring all my covers after the thing, because I started to get into Photoshop a little bit more. So that was the color. And again, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, they have a clown chained to a tree and they're throwing axes at him. So it's different, and that's why I came up with the idea for the Samurai Clown, because it's something different. Among the sea of superheroes, you see a clown with a sword. So you're like, why is a clown running around with a sword? Is he a what do you call it, slashing? He's not. He's a samurai. So yeah, I just want to put that out there. So yeah, something else to point out for people to see that will grab you. And as I said, I'm kind of mumbling and stuttering here because, again, this is not scripted. All right, so the last of the coloring books, or the comics, again, this is Twilight, Battle of Spiritual Warfare. Now, I did a cover for my friend, and I did a double-page spread for him. Let me see if I can shrink this down so you can see it all. As I say, we were all working as a group. Well, I wouldn't say comic book company, because a company works on one thing together. We were just doing our own separate stories, and I think that's what messed up for us, because we were not trying to put everything together. We were just wanting to do our own separate stories. So this was a it was a two-page, well, not two-page spread. It was a cover, the front and the back of the cover. I did that because not too many people were doing that at that time that I saw. So I did that for him, and then he colored it. As I said, he does all the work, so he colored it in his style. Let me zoom in on that. Without the light from the crease. And as I say, you have the character standing there, but the color would be enough for somebody to say, hey, let me check this out. And then when you open it up, hopefully you would have been hooked. So as I said, this is some of the art that he did. He did all the art. The only thing we say he didn't do is the word balloons. We have a friend that does that for us. So yeah, let me zoom down a little bit. So it can be done. So if you want to do a comic book and you say, oh, I don't have time, no, it can be done. It's just dedicated. How dedicated are you to doing it? And when I'm thinking about that, as the guy had stated about the title, we lived and learned from having our title bigger, so that people will understand or know what the book is. The same with me and the... Okay, so I had to edit this piece in because my camera was on play when I thought it was on pause, so it got reversed. And what I was saying about this was, this is the lesson I've learned when doing my covers, not covers, the titles or the names. So I went from a small one to a larger one, and something I thought was pretty unique, since it is the Trials of the Samurai Clown. I took the T and turned it into the scale, like the justice scale. Just something I thought would be different, unique, to stand out. So that's a good thing to do when you do your cover, just as this guy did with his fierce title. He could, to make it stand out, he looked like he did his own design. But as I said earlier, it could have been a lot bigger, but that was years ago. I don't know. That was in 2009 when he did this. I don't even know if it continued or not. So again, I'm saying that I know my character, but you don't know him. So you have to put him in a position to where people will be excited or curious as to what's going on. So that was a cover. And I turned that sideways because I just wanted a sideways book, because I remember a long time ago somebody did a couple sideways books, and I thought that was kind of the neatest thing. So just the cover sideways, the art is right side, and this is in the plastic, and I don't want to take it out of the plastic. So yeah, and I really don't want to turn this into a look at my art tutorial kind of thing, but I just want to show you about covers that you need to make them exciting. This is why is my camera blurry all of a sudden? There you go. This is I think book 5 or 6, the cover that will be for book 5 or 6. That's not out yet. Just give you a quick glimpse. Let me shrink it down a little bit more. I think this will be the cover for the one after that, and each one, it gives you something to think about. What's going on? These guys are in the woods. This guy's either dead or knocked out. You've got the bones. He's got a little axe. He's got a whip or a couple whips, and they're looking at something that is coming after them. You got the cuts on the trees. You got the cuts down here. You can see that where the tree has been broken. So make it exciting. Make it exciting. And one thing is, if you cannot, or if you say your art might not be that good, hire somebody. Save $100, at least $100, and then contact someone and say, hey, can you do my cover for me? You know, it's just like one page. Can you draw and ink my cover for like $100, $75, whatever? And I'm sure that a lot of people can probably fit that into their time, because they're just doing one page. But it's better to have a page that shines, a cover that shines, to help attract people, than a cover that doesn't shine, that pushes people away. So this one is turned out, and this was like I did this one. I changed my mind, and I did this a couple other times. This is a book that it is a web comic that I started to do it in book form. And this is the Eye of the Beholder, and this is the main character. And I did this one, and I said, well, I don't know, I can use it for something else. So I redid that, and I opted out for this one. And then I said, maybe, I don't know. So I opted out again for this one. And I can always use these as other covers. So this is going to be the cover of the book issue, book form of Eye of the Beholder. So yeah, and when you look at it, it actually, your eyes are drawn in, and it's going to be, I think one side might be black, one side might be white. I haven't figured out colors yet. It's not finished. So, but it pulls you in. You know, the main character is under stress. You have like these demons and creatures on one side. You have the line going down. You see that, you know, on one side he's in regular street clothes. The other side he's in some kind of a military uniform with a sword. And then you have your regular people. So basically the story is he walks the line between two dimensions. I'm not going to kind of get into it. If you can find the web comic, which I don't know. Somebody told me it was still up. I haven't done that comic in years, but and I don't even know where it's at. So if you look up Eye of the Beholder, Brian Proctor, if you find it, let me know and tell me what site it's on. But yeah, I decided to do it in a book form, so that's going to be the next cover. And as I said, I can still use these as covers. If not, maybe I'll just turn them into a pinup. But we will see. We will see. And what is this? This is the clown. Since it's there in the pile, I don't know why it's in the pile. It's not a cover. I just decided to show it. But characters. Now, if I do a great color on here, this could be a cover, or if not a pinup. So as I said, one thing, if you cannot do a cover, if you're afraid to do a cover, if you said my skills are not that good, as I say, it's best to hire somebody. Now, as I was going through some of the comics, I was pulling out some comics, and I saw this one, and I wanted to use this kind of as a bad example, but as I looked at it, I saw some great things in it. So I'm showing this off. And this is when I used to go to the conventions. I haven't been to a convention in a while because I'm doing so much art-wise, comic books, children's books, t-shirts, posters, you name it, I'm doing it. But when I used to go to the conventions, I would look at the smaller guys. Not that I was this great big comic convention company or anything. And I understood what it was like to be there with just a little bit of stuff. So I would check these guys' books out, and I would buy these guys' books just so they could go home and say, hey, I made a sale. Not necessarily because I like the book, but I know what it's like, as I said, to be out there around all these major companies, and you have your one book or your two books, and you're trying to sell. And I saw this, and I said, let me use this as a kind of a bad example. But as I said, I saw some good stuff, so I'll break that down. Which is, you know, the title could have been bigger. The title could have been bigger, but it is the colors. You can see the title, you know, it could have been bigger. Now, when I first looked at this, I thought this guy had 4 arms. This guy in the white, he had 4 arms, because the way this arm is coming, it's up under his chin, it's coming right out of his, from under his arm. So I was thinking he had 4 arms, and this one was coming out from under his arm as well. So that was a bad example to me, because if I'm just going by, if I just walk by and I see this book, I'm going to say, oh, you know, 4-armed guy fighting somebody in red. The other thing it could have been, you should have showed more of your characters. Now, I understand why he did that, because in the book, he doesn't do a lot of background. So the bigger and the closer you draw your characters, the more, the less background you have to draw. And a lot of beginners do that. I did that for a long time. So it comes to a time when you have to draw background. You can't just have basically a bunch of pinups framed. So, but when I saw this, I opened it up, and I saw that this guy, he had did his colors in magic marker. He did marker and probably colored pencil, and it really worked. So I said to myself, let me show some of the interior of this, because a lot of people don't have Photoshop, don't have time for Photoshop, can't afford somebody to do coloring. So this is a great example of doing it yourself. This guy used colored pencils and markers, and as I said, it came out pretty good enough to make a comic book out of that. So that's a good thing for the guys who don't have money to do Photoshop and so forth. So, good, bad example of this. And this last one is another one that I bought at a convention. And this is what I'm saying about the cover. Hire a good artist to do your cover. This is a very nice cover. This is very good drawing, very good inking, good color. But there is no art in here that looks like that, because all the art, it's an anthology, number one, so you're going to get a bunch of different artists, but you know, all the art styles are different in here. But the cover does look good, and it will attract you to possibly, you know, buying the book. And I said, it is an anthology, so you have a bunch of other stories and artists in there, but it doesn't hurt when you walk by and you see that cover and you're like, wow, that looks nice. So as I said, if you don't have the ability, hire somebody, save a couple dollars and just say, hey, I'm trying to get my book out. And a lot of people who are or have been there will probably help you. So as I am losing my voice, let me go back over some key points to doing covers. And I would say one is, don't wait to the last second to do your cover. Think about what's happening in the story and how can you put your character or characters on your cover to not only relate to the story, but to grab somebody's attention, like such as Space Ghost. I mean, he's busted up, but he's about to use that power band, so he's going to tear some stuff up if you know about Space Ghost. As I said, if you're drawing your covers straight up and down, you can put somebody in the foreground, somebody in the background, give it some good color, good inking. Same thing here. If you have a bunch of characters jumping out, and I did a video on pinups, how to do pinups, and you can use some of the ideas I said for the pinups as doing covers. I think it was how to do pinups, but where you have your main character and everybody coming out from behind them, and this is basically what this is. So what else? This was a professional what is it? Blue Line. It's Blue Line Pro paper here. So this is a what page. Hold on for 1 second and I'll get that. This is a cover page because they leave space for your logo and your title. And you don't need that because I talked about that just using regular paper. And this is just the, not that one, where is it? Can you grab it? 11 by 17 without, this is not the professional stuff. This is the stuff that I talked about in the video. This is just 11 by 17 paper. You just know that you need to leave room for your title. You don't need this room already supplied for you. You just need to just leave room for yourself, because these blue lines will not photocopy, and then you'll have a blank here. So you have all this blank space here, which you could actually, I could have actually just drew through it, but I decided to just use it as it was because this was my first one of the first attempts at it. So, you know, I didn't know enough. I just bought the pack of paper and it had the cover sheets. I did a cover on it. So, and yeah, and this is just black and white. Since it's just black sketchbook, I didn't do too much. It's just black and white photos, black and white drawings. So yeah, just because. And I'm steadily losing my voice. So have room for your title. Make your title big so we can see it, so we can all see it. Let me zoom out a little bit. Oh, yeah. Room for your logo, whatever that logo will be. You have room for that. Also have room for your credits, I guess you call it. Who did the story, who did the inking, so forth and so on. Because in the beginning, I did not know to do that. I don't want to find that book, but I didn't know. So later on, I understood and started leaving credits for those who did the book, which was me. So yeah. And then nowadays they have the little barcodes that you might need. So also think about leaving room for that, so that doesn't cut up your picture, because they won't all be clear like that. Now, you might not have to do barcode if you're doing it yourself, but to go into a store or something to manufacture a whole lot, you might have to do the barcode, but just save enough room in your cover. You all know that your main action should go somewhere in the middle. Your title, and you can put your title anywhere, but it's best to put it up top. Your logo, and then your credits, or I can't think of the word right now. Acknowledgements, I guess. So a good thing to do, and I'll end this video because this is probably going crazy long, is do some roughs. Do just maybe like 4 or 5 thumbnail covers, and then just put it up and come back a couple of hours later and look at it and say which one would sell the best, or which one is the most exciting. You can actually take it to your friends and show them just roughs. You don't have to do detail, and then say which one do you think is the better cover, and you just get their feedback, family, friends, whatever, because they're not going to say, if you give them one picture, they'll say, oh, that's a beautiful picture, and you don't need that because they love you. They're not going to shoot you down. But if you give them something to choose from and you say, which one do you think is better? Then they'll say, oh, this one is better because why? Because he's jumping, he's fighting, he's whatever. So that's a good way to do your cover. Don't just start doing your cover, putting detail in it and finding out that it doesn't work. Always do your detail very last. Just do your roughs. So I'm going to end this video now, so that I don't have to drink more water because I'm losing my voice. And hopefully you got enough out of it that you will think twice about doing a cover. And that's it for this one. I got some more videos coming, so stay tuned, and I am out. Okay, one last point. This is just bonus information. About a month or so ago, I started to take artist names so that they can help people out, because that's when I started the company, 10 Talent Studio, and it's about artists helping artists. So I gathered a bunch of artist names together to help people that might need something done, like a cover or the color or the art, or help with the story. So if you need help with, be it your cover or any other type of art with your book, contact me at my email, which should be popping up right about now, and I will find out what you just tell me what you need, and I will find one of the artists that best suits you, or that's not busy, that can help you. So yeah, other than that, I think this is going to be it, because I think this is going to be it. I kept